evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. This Independence Day celebrations will be like you've never seen them before. There is a week-long Tiranga Yatra where BJP lawmakers have been asked to carry the tricolour, which should be at least 8 feet high. There will also be shows by celebrities at the border. The Education Ministry is celebrating an Independence Festival until the 23rd of August. And schools will have a mass singing of the national anthem at 11 a.m. on the 23rd. They're also going to be staging patriotic plays. And that is just part of the story. In these times, is this patriotism or hyper-nationalism? That's what we're debating on the program tonight. We're happy to have with us Sambit Patra, national spokesperson of the BJP, Manish Tiwari, former minister and spokesperson of the Congress party. Ashok Malik is here in the studio with us. Siddharth Bhatia joining us tonight from Mumbai, and Pawan Verma from the JDU joining us as well. Let me take this to you first, Siddharth Bhatia. What do you make of these big celebrations on this particular Independence Day? Hyper-nationalism or patriotism?
Well, you know, it's been 2 years and we've been getting here to this point, and perhaps it will continue because in the last couple of years, patriotism and nationalism and hyper-nationalism, as you call it, has been in the air. Certificates are being given out. The term anti-national is thrown around with great abandon. So it almost looks like, and hearing the program that you set out, and of course you didn't mention that ministers or lady ministers will be going to the borders and tying Rakhis. So it looks like that there is an atmosphere being built up to say that, not only to say that yes, this is the patriotism that we want and want to inculcate, but this is the patriotism we want to inculcate. So if you do this, then it will be deemed patriotic. And if you don't, eventually there will be all kinds of defaulters. If you don't, then you are not patriotic. Why do we need to be reminded of our patriotism for 15 days? We are patriotic 365 days a year. So I think this is a bit of a sham, but it is a sham that one must keep an eye on because it could go to really, really extreme lengths in the future. I really worry because this probably will go to schools, this will go to colleges. You're trying to inculcate a sense of ultra-patriotism and nationalism in children, and that's not good for the democratic health of this country.
Well, those are pretty strong words by you, Siddharth Bhatia. Sambit, what do you make of Siddharth Bhatia's comments about this ultra-nationalism, as he called it? I had a question about, for instance, you know, the women ministers going to tie Rakhis to soldiers at the border. I was curious as to how that ties in with inculcating patriotism.
I don't see any reason as to why people should use such strong words and people should be so averse to what is being propagated and what is being promoted by the central government. All that they are saying is, let's celebrate our Independence Day. I was listening to my previous speaker and he said that, well, we need not be reminded that we are patriotic because we are patriotic 365 days a year. So naturally, that means 15th August should not be celebrated. That means 26th January should not be reminding us of a Republic Day. That means 2nd October should not be reminding us of the fact that Mahatma Gandhi is the father of the nation. Why do we do this religiously year after year, through decades after decades? Only because by doing this, it sharpens the memory of the generation previous, so that we remember what were the sacrifices made by our great soldiers, so that we became independent. So I don't see anything wrong in this. Rather, this gives a feeling of togetherness. What you say that this is an environment of not good tolerance, I rather see this is creating an environment of tolerance. And as far as women minister going to the borders and tying Rakhis to the Jawans is concerned, it is a practice since time when we have got independence, when people from Cine fraternity, when people from ministries, when people, various eminent people from various fields like dancers, like writers have been going and visiting the Jawans in the borders in order to see to it that their morale is boosted. There are people who have been stranded in borders, especially in areas like Siachen, etc., where they have not seen the normal civil life since long. So what is wrong? Because Rakhi is also in offing.
You're saying this is about remembering sacrifices and too much shouldn't be read into that. Manish Tiwari, is that a fair comment? Because we live in very highly politicized and divisive times, and is there a tendency also to, you know, overread, into even celebrations like this?
There is nationalism, there is pulp patriotism, there is jingoism, and there is xenophobia. Ultimately, it all boils down to intent. I recall in 1987, when the 40th anniversary of India's independence was celebrated, there were various festivities, various events which were conducted across the country, but the element of jingoism was not present in it. I recall when the 50th anniversary of India's independence was celebrated in 1997, I think Mr. I.K. Gujral was then Prime Minister. It was celebrated with pomp and gusto. In fact, there was a special session of Parliament to commemorate it. The late Mr. Sangma was Speaker. Again, the element of xenophobia was missing. In 2007, the same thing happened with the celebrations for the 60th anniversary. The reason why people like Siddharth Bhatia are skeptical, and maybe for the right reasons, is because there is a spectre of intolerance which has been created in the last 2 years of the NDA-BJP government, whereby it is stated and unstated, both explicit and implicit, that if you follow our brand of nationalism, then you are patriotic. If you do not, you are anti-national.
Let me take what you said to Ashok Malik. Is there an element of truth in that where, Ashok, you're on social media very actively, you see it there playing out all the time. You know, the moment there is a view that is taken that is contrary to the governments, you have, you know, not just the trolls, but even, you know, supporters who will immediately brand you as anti-national. Sambit and I have had so many arguments on this show where he's called other panelists anti-national for disagreeing with him.
No, I don't want to go into what Sambit has done or what people on social media do. We are quick to jump and issue or slap labels or certificates. We do it on social media. Frankly, we do it in television and mainstream media as well. I am not one for giving labels like nationalist or anti-national. I'm not one for giving labels like communal and secular. Those who complain about nationalism being a label bandied about have been very quick to bandy about labels like communal and secular. Both are incorrect and both shouldn't be done. We should be fair and open-minded enough to have a debate. Manish used the word xenophobia. I can take all his criticism before that as part of the normal political discourse in our country. I think xenophobia was a bit extreme. I don't see any elements of xenophobia at the moment.
No, Ashok, I said there are 4 different concepts. I
He
never
said the
said that
element of
anybody was
jingoism.
xenophobic or not.
No,
I said there are 4 different concepts.
I was still
so
fair
I
enough,
in fact delineated a pecking order.
Fair enough, but
He talked about an element of jingoism. Is there an element of truth in that?
okay, again, there are 2 things here. One, the 70th anniversary being celebrated as, I hope, not just a government event, but a people's event, because in the end, the nation belongs to the people. I'd like to see it play out, and I'd be happy if there was more popular participation. I believe there is a people's festival planned in the India Gate area, which would be a very good idea, because India Gate belongs to more than just the government in Delhi, it belongs to all of us. I want to see what the details are, I don't quite know. But I do hope there's great popular participation. In terms of people going down to the border to meet our soldiers, frankly, one of NDTV's most successful and long-running programs has been taking celebrities to the border
and we have
to
one
meet
playing
soldiers,
out on Monday with
to
Alia
meet soldiers on 15th August and such days. So it's a day of remembrance. Sunil Dutt and Nargis Dutt famously took film stars to, as Sambit said, to the border in '62, and it was we all cherished.
I was only asking why the symbolism of tying the Rakhi. That was just a question I had.
But I'll tell you one more thing.
Yeah.
You know, to elevate the debate, the nation state and nation state sovereignty, the Westphalian model, if you choose to call it, did recede a bit with globalization over 20 years. In the past few years, we've seen a worldwide trend because of economic uncertainty, perhaps because of the international security environment. We've seen it make a comeback. It's making a comeback in Europe. It's making a comeback in the US.
So why not in India?
It's making a comeback here as well. We can't run away from that.
Pawan Verma, interesting on that last point that Ashok Malik mentioned. Are we seeing a resurgence of a different kind of nationalism in India?
No, in my view, Nidhi, patriotism is a perfectly legitimate sentiment. And if it's around Independence Day of 15th August and coinciding with the 70 years of our independence, I don't believe any political party can fault it. Where I have my elements of doubt is that in this somewhat overly energetic focus on patriotism, there are 4 or 5 elements that cause me some concern. One is that of balance. The second is of motivation. the third is of selectivity, the fourth is of appropriation, and the fifth is of amnesia. And if you give me 20 seconds, I'll just explain what I mean. On balance, it's been mentioned by earlier speakers, somehow patriotism is carried on the sleeve. And there are quick judgments passed as to who is patriotic depending on some ritualism. If you say Bharat Mata Ki Jai, you are entitled to be patriotic in the categories that we consider to be right. If you don't say it, and the test is immediate, you are beyond the pale. The balance is lost because laws of sedition will be applied immediately because you are deemed to be unpatriotic if you don't agree with the categories in which we define it. There is the issue of motivation. If you overdo something which should be a spontaneous bipartisan effort, there is the feeling that somewhere there is an attempt to take away attention from other failures under the garb, under the protection, under the awning of an excessive focus on patriotism, and to measure flags and their heights and to make a big tamasha of it rather than a celebration of it. There is the question of selectivity. I was seeing the documentary made by Ministry of Defence. I mean, there is a statue of Sardar Patel whom we all revere, and almost no other leader is mentioned in it. Is this a matter of being choosy in whom we recall in terms of the leadership that provided us the freedom movement, or is it about something which the BJP considers to be its agenda? But there is this, therefore, from this there follows a sense of appropriation that we have a monopoly on patriotism, and we are the ones who will portray, project, promote it, and you must follow, and if you don't, you are guilty.
Let
and
me
lastly,
take what you're saying to
amnesia,
Sambit.
when I say this, last point, amnesia. I mean, you know, you must remember that when this completely opposite attempt is being made to revere the tricolour, it has been the RSS's considered agenda, even at the time of 1947, that the Bhagwa, the saffron flag, should have been there and not the tricolour. In fact, one of their leading ideologues said that there should not have been the constitution of India.
Which is why you're talking about the point of amnesia. But you've made very important points there, Pawan Verma, and all of you, in fact. And Sambit, I'll take that to you. This point has been made by more than one panelist, beginning with Siddharth, that, you know, do you have to carry your patriotism today on your sleeve? Are we very quick to label people as unpatriotic, as anti-national? And unfortunately, I have to say that happens in the discourse with the government and the BJP very often. As I mentioned, you yourself have often got into that labeling of other panelists when they haven't agreed with the point of view.
First, since my eminent co-panelist, Mr. Pawan Verma, was speaking of 5 points, of which amnesia was one, and he, in fact, pointed to the fact that RSS and its followers revered the saffron flag more than the tricolour. I would also use the same word, amnesia, to point out to Mr. Pawan Verma that if he knew this principle of RSS all these years, and despite that they spent 17 years of their life, political life, with Bharatiya Janata Party, it only means that there is a sixth dimension which is called as opportunism. But without going into rhetorics, and since you have drawn my name twice into the, I was not interjecting, and since you have drawn my name twice into the debate that I have been quick to label people and co-panelists as nationalist or anti-nationalist, let me remind you, if you review the cases, and you would see both the instances has been where there has been a co-panelist from Pakistan, and whenever we had been slamming Indian government stand in front of a co-Pakistani panelist, I have always shunned that, saying that, well, domestic politics should be dealt with differently, and when there is a foreign panelist, we have to deal with our domestic things in a different way. Having said that, coming to the core issues which have to be addressed. Number one, well, we cannot make everyone happy over here. I know Pawan Verma may be unhappy, Manish ji, though they are senior to me, they may be unhappy over things. But then if people of the country are happy, if our Jawans in the border are happy, that is what our lookout is. I mean, if you are unhappy over petty things,
can I ask
the
why
definition
the flag
of
has
which
to be
probably
8
is
feet
not
high?
known to,
why does the flag have to be 8 feet high? I'm just curious again about the why it has to be that big.
No, so even if it's 8 feet high, how does that cause a problem to anyone?
I'm just asking why that number. Why does it have to be that? I mean, is there a reason for that? Is there some reason for that?
I do. There must be a good reason for that. But my question is, why should 8 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet make anyone unhappy? Is it that the Congress said that the flag has to be 5 feet and the BJP said, no, the Congress's dictum was wrong, let it be 8 feet? Not at all. Flag is everyone's flag. So what if the flag is 8 feet or 9 feet? That is not an issue at all. This is not an issue. The issue is, why do we reiterate these important dates and these important days? We reiterate these important events in our life because that only sharpens our memory of our past. As I was telling you, I mean, look, why do we make movies? Remember, only in the recent past, movies on Mangal Pandey and Bhagat Singh have been a big hit amongst the young population because they have their memory has been reiterated. And government is not making film. I'm giving an analogy. I'm giving you an example that if the government is celebrating the 15th August or the 26th January with fanfare, that is only to promote a feeling for the country. Look what's happening. You are talking of times of intolerance. I'm talking of far graver times. You have ISIS at the doorstep where we need to remind the people of this country that no, ISIS is not the way. India and Indian secularism is the way. We have people in JNU shouting that Insha'Allah Hindustan ke 100 tukde honge. We have to remind them, nahi, India is a great country and this is the legacy of India. What is wrong if the government is celebrating 15th August?